Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. Red-haired Shanks is one of the most mysterious characters in the One Piece universe, and he also seems to have a plan where he seeks to completely change the world and cause a new era to emerge. However, it was Luffy who managed to obtain the power of the sun god Nika through Shanks' least alleged carelessness, allowing Luffy to eat a fruit that Shanks and his crew had managed to take away from the Marines and CP9. However, there's a really good chance that this wasn't an oversight on the part of Shanks, but rather something that had already been premeditated by the Yonko, thus choosing Luffy as the new bearer of the fruit of the sun god Nika. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the possibility that Shanks planned from the beginning that Luffy was to eat the fruit of the sun god Nika so that he'd become the new Joy Boy, and also how this came to pass. But before we dive into the video, if you're new to the channel or even if you've watched a bunch of our videos, we'd be absolutely honored if you'd leave us a like and even subscribe and maybe leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out, especially with that old YouTube algorithm, and it continues to motivate us to make more content. If you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing this video or another one of your favorites with a friend. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So my friends, Shanks is a highly intelligent and strategic character, and is always looking for ways to resolve situations peacefully, or at least having it go the way that he's planned. The story of One Piece has led us to believe that Luffy ate Nika's fruit that was with Shanks because he got angry at the situation going on around him. But the story might have actually been completely planned from the beginning by Shanks himself. And whether it was through Shanks's will or the will of Nika within inside the devil fruit or some other means, somehow Luffy ended up eating the fruit, causing him to be able to awaken the full potential of this fruit from the future, allowing the young pirate to become the next Joy Boy, the one who would change the world and bring peace to everyone on the planet. 13 years prior to the current storyline, Shanks' crew stole the Gomu Gomu no Mi, which was being stored on a world government ship and being protected by the CP9 agent Who's Who. Even the CP0 agent was surprised that a pirate as powerful as Shanks was after a fruit as insignificant as something as the rubber fruit, not really knowing the true origin or how powerful that fruit that they were transporting was. Yet somehow, Shanks knew that the Gomu Gomu no Mi was the fruit of the sun god Nika, and this allowed him to devise a plan to obtain the fruit and find a proper host to bear this fruit so that they could awaken the fruit of the sun god that lay dormant inside. Now, Shanks may not have actually considered himself worthy of obtaining this power, nor did any of his crewmates, so they may have wandered in search of finding the right person who would assume this responsibility. And on top of that, all of Shanks' crew members don't have any devil fruits, so if any of them obtained some devil fruit power, it could hurt the dignity of this crew at least a little bit, since they would now have a member with fruit powers. That very same year, Shanks arrived on Dawn Island, where he met a strange young boy named Monkey D. Luffy, a boy in whom Shanks gradually managed to observe that he had a certain determination and will, and that he might actually be the one to become the Joy Boy for the future. As their friendship and relationship developed, Shanks started seeing what Luffy was really made of, and saw that he really was a good option. So Shanks then spent a year in the village of Fuchsia to see if Luffy really was worthy of eating this legendary fruit. So Shanks spent months observing and analyzing Luffy's determination, his kindness, and even his strength, waiting for something to indicate that he was the right person to eat this fruit. So by spending a lot of time together, Shanks and Luffy formed the great friendship that we now know of today. On his side, Luffy quickly became attached to Shanks' crew, so much so that he longed to join them and become a pirate as well. But Shanks always refused to allow the boy into his crew, claiming that he was just too young. Or perhaps there was something bigger that Shanks had in mind, tricking Luffy into joining the crew because something bigger was waiting for him, so he couldn't allow Luffy to follow the same exact path as him. You see, since Shanks would be in search of the One Piece, Luffy would still need to find some way to awaken the fruit, and this is all so he could obtain Joy Boy's great power. So as a way to distance Luffy from his own goal as a pirate, Shanks denied him entry. But even when denying Luffy to join his crew, Shanks realized that the young man's will was to become king of the pirates. So something made Shanks realize that the boy might really be the one he was looking for. Roger's will seemed to run through this young boy's veins, and there was a great determination to achieve his goal no matter the cost. And this became more and more apparent with all the time that Shanks spent with Luffy. And he also saw Luffy's attempt to prove that he was worthy of joining his crew. In fact, fact, there was a moment where right in front of Shanks, Luffy took a blade and slashed it right underneath his eye in a way of proving his determination and courage, further increasing Shanks' respect and his expectations that this boy really could be the next Joy Boy. So next, Shanks started putting together a plan into action, as he managed to get all the possible clues that Joy Boy might be the man he had been looking for the whole time, the one who could access this great power, achieving that awakening in the future. So Shanks might have started orchestrating a plan where he was trying to figure out ways to get Luffy to eat the fruit in a way where it wasn't super obvious that Shanks wanted the young dreamer to eat that legendary fruit. That way, Luffy would have never realized that he was being manipulated into eating that fruit. The fault of having eaten the fruit would have been his and his alone, by pure and free will, which could make Luffy feel much more comfortable with that power, instead of considering it an obligation that he had to pay or owed something to Shanks for eating the fruit. So what they did next was that they held a party at Party's bar in celebration of Luffy's courage. And during this celebration, Shanks started acting in a different and much more playful and considerably silly way. He ignored his pride and just acted like a simple pirate, which made Luffy start to find his attitude strange, acting in a totally opposite way than what he felt he should have been acting. As Shanks and Luffy were talking, they were interrupted by Higema and his thugs, interrupting the conversation and the celebration that Shanks' pirates had been having for Luffy's courage. In this scene, the Highland bandits arrived and demanded sake, which Shanks and his crew had already drank all but one bottle of. So Shanks offered Higema the last bottle, but of course Higema broke it over his head because he felt it just wasn't enough to slake his thirst. When Shanks tried to clean up the mess instead of retaliating, Higema threw Shanks' food at him and left, convinced that Shanks was a coward, and afterwards Shanks and his crew just laughed at their humiliation and the silliness of the situation. Now this was something very strange and uncharacteristic coming from Shanks, since he had a huge bounty on his head, but even so, he just chose to laugh at the situation and allow Higema to leave without any further punishment. But Luffy, seemingly disappointed at how Shanks refused to fight back or even protect himself, tried to leave, leading Shanks to discover that he had eaten the Gomu Gomu no Mi when he grabbed Luffy's arm. Now in this moment, Shanks appeared to be surprised by what Luffy ate, but it might have just been an act to inform Luffy about the new powers that he had gained from eating that fruit. Now this is because, as we know, Shanks is an amazing hockey user, which means that even if he had been paying attention to Higema's actions, he would have still been very aware of what Luffy was up to. He would have even been able to detect the exact moment when Luffy would have been eating the Gomu Gomu no Mi, but even knowing that, he allowed Luffy to eat the fruit. Even Shanks' pirates possessed considerably advanced hockey, allowing them to quickly realize what Luffy would have been doing too. This supposed oversight might have been intentional, although the later events like Higema kidnapping Luffy and Shanks losing his arm to save the young boy might not have just turned out the way that Shanks and his crew had planned. But still, the loss of the arm didn't faze Shanks, because as we knew, he found the right person to bear the sun god Nika's fruit. Shanks had finally managed to find the chosen one to become the next Joy Boy. Now since then, Shanks has been watching Luffy's steps and progress, hoping that Luffy would be able to awaken the fruit, becoming the new Joy Boy, so that his plan would finally begin to take off. And even now that Luffy has become Joy Boy, Shanks' goal is still not complete. Shanks could possibly be waiting for something to happen to Luffy, where maybe a hidden power awakening, or even Luffy's training that power so that Shanks can finally meet Luffy again and start the actual plan. This very plan might in fact involve the One Piece treasure, because Roger wasn't able to get the treasure himself. The only one capable of somehow unlocking the treasure has to be Joy Boy himself, who of course currently is Luffy. So Shanks may just be waiting for Luffy to better understand this power in order to take him to the One Piece. There might be some hidden objective, because we don't know if Shanks is really doing this to help Luffy, or it's more to suit his own interests. But however it turns out, we will finally be able to see Shanks' real goal and the fruits of all of his labor. But with all that said, my friends, we'd now love to know what you think about it. Do you think this has been a plan of maybe Rogers and maybe Shanks just took it over? Or is this a plan that Shanks has had from the beginning? Also, do you think that this is 100% Shanks? Or do you, like some other people in the community, think that this could be a larger part of the will that's inside the Nika fruit? It's been said a lot recently that Zoan fruits have their own will. So is this fruit's will, in fact, affecting Shanks and therefore the rest of the story? Or is it something else, more like fate? Let us know what you think about all that in the comments below. So as we wrap up our video for the day, we would like to thank you all so much for watching the video, especially those of you who've made it here to the very end. Be sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like and hit that red subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. I hope to see you all in our next video. Let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.